Melania Trump has always been fiercely protective of her son, Barron Trump, ensuring that he grew up away from the relentless scrutiny that often surrounds the Trump family. From the moment he was born, Melania made it clear that his privacy was her top priority. Unlike Donald Trump's older children Ivanka, Donald Jr., Eric, and Tiffany, who were frequently in the public eye due to their involvement in their father's business and political endeavors, Barron was deliberately kept out of the spotlight. Melania, known for her reserved nature, took on the role of his primary guardian, shielding him from media attention while carefully managing his upbringing. Her approach was evident early on when she chose to raise Barron in New York City, far from the political and corporate bustle of Trump Tower. While his father dominated headlines with real estate deals and television appearances, Melania ensured that Barron had as normal a childhood as possible. She refrained from using him for publicity, rarely sharing details about his life, and discouraging unnecessary media exposure. Even during Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign, when the entire family was thrust into the national spotlight, Barron was largely absent from public events. Unlike his older siblings, who actively campaigned alongside their father, Barron remained in New York, attending school and living a quiet life. When Donald Trump won the presidency, Melania made a bold and unconventional decision. She refused to move into the White House immediately, choosing instead to stay in New York so that Barron could finish his school year in familiar surroundings. This decision, unprecedented in modern American politics, underscored her dedication to maintaining her son's stability and shielding him from the chaotic world of Washington, D.C. Even after moving into the White House in mid-2017, Melania continued to enforce strict boundaries around Barron's public exposure. Unlike the children of previous presidents, who were often seen at official events or speaking publicly, Barron was rarely photographed, and his appearances were limited to a few ceremonial occasions. Melania's efforts to protect Barron extended beyond controlling his public presence. She was deeply involved in his education and personal development, taking a hands-on approach to his schooling and ensuring he had a strong foundation away from the political sphere. Reports suggested that she managed many aspects of his life personally, from his daily schedule to his extracurricular activities. She was also instrumental in ensuring he maintained a close relationship with her family, particularly her parents, who played a significant role in his upbringing. Even after Donald Trump left office in 2021, Melania continued to guard Barron's privacy with unwavering dedication. When the family relocated to Palm Beach, Florida, she carefully selected Oxbridge Academy for his education, a school known for its discretion and exclusivity. Throughout his high school years, Barron remained largely unseen, with Melania making sure he was not drawn into the public controversies that often surrounded his father. She kept him away from social media and public interviews, ensuring that he had the space to grow up without the pressures of public scrutiny. Her protective nature was further evident during Donald Trump's 2024 presidential campaign. Despite Barron reaching adulthood, Melania remained his steadfast guardian, ensuring that his involvement in politics was limited. When Barron was offered a role as a delegate at the Republican National Convention, Melania reportedly advised against it, citing his academic commitments as a priority. She also continued to accompany him as he made decisions about his future, including his move to New York University. Sources close to the family indicated that she was still the primary decision-maker in his life, guiding him carefully through the transition from adolescence to adulthood. Melania's unwavering commitment to Barron's privacy and well-being set her apart from other first ladies. While many political families embraced media attention as a tool for influence, she chose a different path, one of quiet protection and careful control. Her dedication to shielding Barron from the spotlight has not only preserved his childhood but has also given him the rare privilege of growing up on his own terms. As he steps into adulthood, her influence remains evident in the composed and private young man he has become. The world may speculate about Barron Trump's future, but one thing remains certain: Melania Trump's efforts have ensured that whatever path he chooses, it will be one made on his own terms, away from the pressures of political expectation. Barron Trump's early life and education were shaped by both privilege and a carefully maintained shield of privacy. As the only child of Donald and Melania Trump, he was born into a world of immense wealth and public scrutiny. From the moment of his birth on March 20, 2006, he was destined to grow up in a highly unique environment, one where the grandeur of Trump Tower, the prestige of elite private schools, and the relentless attention of the media would all play a role in his upbringing. Barron spent his early childhood in the Trump family's penthouse in New York City, a lavish triplex overlooking Manhattan. Unlike his half-siblings, who were already adults and engaged in business or politics, Barron was raised in a world of luxury but with a strong emphasis on discipline and education. Melania Trump, his mother, took an active role in shaping his upbringing, reportedly speaking to him in both English and her native Slovenian, ensuring that he grew up bilingual. From a young age he displayed an affinity for learning, attending Columbia Grammar Preparatory School, one of New York's most prestigious private schools. Education was a top priority for Melania, who insisted on providing her son with a structured and well-rounded academic foundation. Barron was known to have a particular interest in languages, history, and business, reflecting the intellectual expectations placed upon him. Despite his father's high-profile real estate empire and political ambitions, Barron was kept away from the public eye during his formative years, attending school events and extracurricular activities with minimal press coverage. In 2017, when Donald Trump took office as the 45th President of the United States, Barron and Melania did not immediately move into the White House. Instead, they remained in New York for several months so that Barron could finish his school year. This decision underscored Melania's protective approach to her son's upbringing. She prioritized his stability and education over immediate political expectations. That summer, Barron relocated to Washington, D.C., where he became the first presidential in over 50 years to attend a school outside of the traditional Sidwell Friends School. Instead, he was enrolled at St. Andrew's Episcopal School in Maryland, a departure from precedent that further highlighted his unique path. Despite living in the White House, Barron maintained a relatively normal school life, shielded from the political chaos surrounding his father's presidency. While his older siblings took on prominent roles in the administration, Barron's education remained his central focus. He participated in school activities, formed friendships, and largely stayed out of the media spotlight. His reserved nature set him apart from the more public-facing members of the Trump family, reinforcing his reputation as the most private of Donald Trump's children. After his father's presidency ended in 2021, Barron and Melania relocated to Florida, where he attended Oxbridge Academy, another prestigious institution known for its curriculum and strong emphasis on leadership development. Unlike in Washington, where he was often under security watch, Barron found a more settled and private existence in Palm Beach. He graduated with the class of 2024, marking an important milestone in his transition from childhood to adulthood. That same year, Barron made headlines once again when it was revealed that he had been accepted into New York University's business school. His choice of New was a significant one. It allowed him to return to his childhood city while staying close to his family's business empire. Unlike his father, who built his career through real estate and branding without a formal business degree, Barron's academic path suggested a more traditional approach to leadership and success. His enrollment at New placed him in one of the most competitive academic environments in the country, raising speculation about his future plans. Throughout his education, Barron Trump was carefully positioned to balance the weight of his family legacy with his own aspirations. His academic journey from elite private schools to a top-tier university reflected both privilege and expectation. Yet, despite growing up in a world defined by power and wealth, Barron remained an enigma, carefully navigating the demands of his upbringing while forging a path of his own. As he entered adulthood, the world watched with curiosity, wondering whether he would follow in his father's footsteps or carve out a unique legacy of his own. For most of his life, Barron Trump remained a quiet and elusive figure, carefully shielded from public attention by his mother, Melania Trump. Unlike his older siblings, who were actively involved in Donald Trump's political and business affairs, Barron was kept at a distance from the media and the public eye. However, as he grew older, his gradual emergence into public life became inevitable. By 2024, the youngest Trump was stepping into a new phase, one where his presence, voice, and influence were beginning to be noticed on a larger scale. The first signs of Barron's increasing visibility came during his father's 2024 presidential campaign. For years, he had avoided the political spotlight, with only a few appearances at major events, such as the Republican National Convention or the occasional White House ceremony. But as Donald Trump launched his bid for re-election, Barron's presence became more pronounced. Though he turned down the opportunity to serve as a delegate for Florida at the convention, citing prior commitments, he still attended his father's rallies, something he had never done before. His first public campaign appearance in July 2024 marked a significant moment. Standing alongside his father, towering over everyone around him, Barron instantly drew attention. His quiet confidence and composed demeanor were a stark contrast to the outspoken personalities of his older siblings. His appearance on the campaign trail also reignited public curiosity about him. Unlike Ivanka, Donald Jr., or Eric, who frequently spoke on behalf of their father, Barron remained silent, adding to the air of mystery surrounding him. But that silence was finally broken when a video of him speaking in public for the first time since childhood went viral. In the clip, Barron's voice calm, polite, and with a distinct accent reminiscent of his mother surprised many. The internet erupted with reactions, with people commenting on his resemblance to his father, his mature presence, and even drawing comparisons to Hollywood figures like Timothée Chalamet. The fascination with his voice underscored how little the public truly knew about him, making this brief moment a cultural phenomenon. Beyond the campaign trail, Barron's transition into public life was also reflected in his move to New York University in September 2024. Unlike his previous years, where he was carefully guarded by Melania, his decision to attend college in Manhattan signaled a step toward independence. Though he was still accompanied by Secret Service agents, Barron was now navigating life as a young adult in one of the busiest cities in the world. His enrollment at NU placed him back in the heart of New York, the city where he had spent his early childhood before moving to Washington, D.C., and later to Florida. Despite this increasing public presence, Barron continued to maintain an air of mystery. While his classmates at NU saw glimpses of him around campus, he largely kept to himself, avoiding unnecessary media exposure. Yet, his name frequently surfaced in discussions about the future of the Trump family. Many speculated whether he would eventually step into politics like his father or pursue a different path. His interest in business, evident from his academic choices, suggested that he was more inclined to follow in Donald Trump's entrepreneurial footsteps rather than immediately engaging in political life. However, his role in shaping his father's campaign strategy hinted at a potential behind-the-scenes influence. Reports suggested that Barron had encouraged his father to shift focus toward digital media and podcasts, a strategy that proved highly effective in reaching younger voters. Though he wasn't giving speeches or making public statements, his understanding of modern media platforms positioned him as a quiet but strategic figure within the Trump circle. As Barron Trump stepped further into the public eye, the fascination surrounding him only grew. He had spent most of his life as a mystery, a reserved figure within a highly public family. But with each appearance, each carefully chosen word, and each subtle move, he was beginning to shape an identity of his own, one that remained distinct from his father's, yet inevitably tied to the legacy of the Trump name. Whether he would continue to embrace public life or retreat into the private world his mother had so carefully built for him remained uncertain. But one thing was clear. Barron Trump was no longer just the quiet child in the background. He was stepping into his own, and the world was watching. For years, Barron Trump was one of the most enigmatic figures in the Trump family. Unlike his outspoken father and high-profile siblings, he remained largely silent, making only occasional appearances at official events. His privacy, carefully guarded by Melania Trump, ensured that the public knew little about him beyond his height and striking resemblance to his parents. However, that all changed in 2024 when a short clip of Barron speaking publicly for the first time since childhood went viral. The moment, seemingly ordinary, sparked an online frenzy, with people across social media captivated by his voice, mannerisms, and demeanor. The viral video, taken from a documentary series, showed Barron Trump at an event, shaking hands and politely introducing himself. His voice, deeper than many had expected, carried a composed and measured tone. The clip was brief, yet it set off a wave of reactions. Social media platforms were flooded with comments, with users marveling at how grown-up he sounded. Many had assumed, based on his largely silent presence, that his voice would resemble that of a typical teenager. Instead, his refined speech, slight European accent likely influenced by his mother's Slovenian heritage, and confident delivery left an impression. One of the most common reactions was the comparison between Barron and his father. Many noted that his voice carried a familiar cadence, mirroring Donald Trump's intonations and manner of speaking. "He sounds just like his dad," one user remarked, while others pointed out subtle differences that made his voice uniquely his own. Some even speculated that his speech patterns indicated a formal upbringing, likely shaped by Melania's influence and his years in elite private schools. The fascination with Barron's voice quickly extended to his overall presence. Unlike his father, who is known for his commanding and often bombastic speaking style, Barron appeared calm, soft-spoken, and effortlessly polite. His reserved demeanor only added to the intrigue. He was not the brash, media-savvy personality that many associated with the Trump name. Instead, he projected quiet confidence, which many found refreshing. "He has such an air of composure about him," one commenter noted. "I never thought I'd hear him speak, and now I can't stop replaying this clip." The comparisons didn't stop with his father. Many online users likened his voice and mannerisms to those of actors and cultural figures, with some even drawing parallels to Timothy Chalamet, known for his elegant and articulate way of speaking. Others remarked on how presidential he sounded, fueling speculation about whether he might one day enter politics. Though Barron himself had never expressed any public political ambitions, the idea of another Trump in the political arena became a hot topic of debate. Beyond the sheer novelty of hearing Barron speak, the clip also reignited admiration for the way Melania had raised him. Many praised her for ensuring that he grew up with a sense of discipline, poise, and respect. "Melania did an incredible job raising him," one user wrote. "He's so well-mannered, unlike so many kids of famous people." The contrast between Barron's reserved nature and the often chaotic image of the Trump family further amplified this sentiment. But the viral moment also carried a deeper significance. It marked a turning point in Barron's public identity. Until that moment he had been more of a mystery, known for his towering height and occasional appearances alongside his parents. Now, for the first time, the public got a glimpse of his personality, his manner of speaking, and the way he carried himself. It was a reminder that, despite growing up in one of the most famous families in the world, Barron was his own person, separate from the larger-than-life persona of his father. As the video continued to circulate, discussions about his future only intensified. Would he eventually step into a public role? Would he continue to maintain the privacy his mother had fought so hard to protect? The fascination surrounding him was unlike that of his siblings. There was no controversy, no political agenda attached to his name. Instead, it was simple curiosity about a young man who had been silent for so long, finally letting the world hear his voice. And in that brief moment, he became more than just the son of a former president. He became a figure of intrigue, mystery, and perhaps quiet potential. Throughout Donald Trump's 2024 presidential campaign, much of the public focus remained on his political strategies, media battles, and the familiar presence of his older children, who played active roles in his previous campaigns. However, behind the scenes, another figure was quietly making an impact: his youngest son, Barron Trump. While Barron had long maintained a low profile, avoiding the political spotlight that had engulfed the rest of his family, he played a subtle but significant role in shaping his father's campaign strategy. His influence was not in speeches or public appearances, but in the digital and media landscape, where his understanding of modern communication trends helped reshape Donald Trump's outreach to younger voters. As a member of Generation Z, Barron had grown up in a vastly different media environment than his father. Unlike previous election cycles, where traditional news networks dominated, the 2024 campaign saw a massive shift toward digital platforms, podcasts, and social media influencers. Barron, recognizing this evolution, reportedly encouraged his father to embrace new media strategies, urging him to focus less on legacy media interviews and more on engaging with independent, long-form content creators. This approach aligned with the broader cultural shift away from establishment news and toward alternative platforms that catered to a younger, more digitally engaged audience. Donald Trump's decision to appear on major podcasts such as The Joe Rogan Experience, Flagrant with Andrew Schulz, and the PBD podcast with Patrick Bet-David was, in part, a reflection of Barron's influence. These appearances allowed Trump to connect with audiences who might not typically tune in to traditional campaign events. Unlike cable news interviews, which often felt confrontational and constrained by short segments, podcasts provided a relaxed, conversational format where Trump could speak freely, elaborate on his views, and appeal to younger voters who consume content differently than previous generations. The strategy paid off almost immediately. Trump's appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience, one of the most watched podcasts in the world, garnered millions of views within hours. Clips from the interview spread rapidly across social media platforms, reaching an audience far beyond the traditional Republican voter base. Analysts noted that this approach allowed Trump to bypass the gatekeepers of mainstream media, a tactic that resonated particularly well with younger, independent-minded voters who distrusted corporate news outlets. Barron's role in this shift was not widely publicized, but those close to the campaign acknowledged his behind-the-scenes influence. Reports suggested that he had discussed media trends with his father, highlighting the growing influence of digital-first platforms. His input was particularly valuable because, unlike Trump's older children, Barron was part of the demographic that campaigns struggled to reach: young, online-savvy individuals who consume news through social media algorithms rather than cable news networks. Despite his influence, Barron remained largely absent from the public aspects of the campaign. While he attended a rally in July 2024, his presence was minimal, and he declined an official role as a delegate at the Republican National Convention, citing academic commitments. However, his strategic thinking was evident in the ways Trump adapted his campaign's messaging. The increased focus on viral clips, meme culture, and influencer partnerships reflected a campaign that understood how political engagement had evolved in the digital age. Even Donald Trump himself acknowledged Barron's role. During a speech at a campaign event, he jokingly mentioned that his son was more knowledgeable about digital platforms than many of his advisors. "Barron tells me, Dad, you've got to be on these podcasts. That's where people are watching," Trump remarked, drawing laughter from the crowd. While the comment was made in jest, it hinted at the real conversations happening behind the scenes, conversations that were helping shape the way Trump communicated with voters. As election night approached, it became clear that Barron's insights had contributed to a key advantage for the campaign. While traditional media outlets focused on the usual political narratives, Trump's ability to dominate social media spaces, trend on digital platforms, and reach millions through long-form conversations set his campaign apart. Barron, despite his reluctance to step into the political arena directly, had played a role that even some seasoned strategists hadn't anticipated, helping his father connect with a generation that many believed was out of his reach. While Barron Trump may not have given speeches or taken center stage, his influence on Donald Trump's 2024 campaign was undeniable. His understanding of digital trends, his ability to see where younger audiences were engaging, and his subtle guidance in media strategy reflected a growing reality. Political campaigns were no longer just about rallies and debates. They were about adapting to a new media landscape. And in that landscape, Barron Trump had quietly made his mark.